This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. This is an important video. It's a video you can use to try and wake people up, which is why I'm still continuing to do videos here on YouTube. This is why I'm still trying to wake people up, because things like this, you should be able to prove to people out there that we're not conspiracy theorists, that the government admits that they can do these types of things, and ultimately, we have been proven right time and time again. But because of the mind control, because of the repetition and the conditioning to convince people that we're all nuts, people just dismiss the things that we're saying because they can't wrap their heads around the government not only being able to do these things, but wanting to do these things to deceive the masses into being able to obtain more control over them. So let me show you this as simply as I can, right? We all heard about the solar flare, how we were going to see auroras illuminate the night skies around the world because of this solar flare that, of course, just kind of came a little bit out of nowhere, that they're all telling you, hey, your electronics might get disabled, your phone might not work, there could be a real grid shutdown. The things they've been telling us over and over again, right? So auroras have been illuminating the night skies. People like me and you have been talking about how the government has the ability to do things even like create artificial eclipses, which we just saw. The government and governments like China have the ability to create artificial suns. They tell you these things, but for whatever reason, it goes in the ear of one person and right out the same exact ear. It doesn't even go through their brain and process out the other ear. It just goes in the one ear and it almost bounces and ricochets off their brain. They are not absorbing this because they can't grasp this. It's too difficult for them to grasp, right? So while they're telling us that the auroras are illuminating the night skies, look at this. Haarp transmitting ionospheric experiments May 8th through the 10th, right? And you might say, well, okay, wow. So Haarp's on, what's the big deal? It's a conspiracy, which I'll get to in a minute because of course they're deflecting off of this. But the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, Haarp, will conduct experiments within the 2.8 to 10 MHz frequency range May 8th through 10th. Originating from Alaska, the transmissions are part of a research effort from the University of Alaska Fairbanks to detect orbiting space debris. Modulation may be AM, FM, LFM, or a complex waveform, or a time sequence of different modulations. QSL cards are available by request. Okay, so now we know that Haarp is on and transmitting ionospheric experiments during this aurora event, right? During this thing that everybody seemingly is seeing in the skies or seeing with their cell phones, which I'll get into in another video. But, okay, so now you're saying to yourself, okay, Haarp's on, I don't get it. How did the two formulate? Here's a story from November of 2023, okay, where even popular news outlets like Popular Science, which a lot of the sheeple run to get their information, had this article. Why scientists use these radio transmitters, Haarp, to create artificial auroras. So now we can start connecting the dots. Of course, they'll call you a conspiracy theorist, but we can start connecting the dots, right? We have an aurora happening right now all across the earth, right? Okay, all across the earth. It's a phenomenon we're supposed to believe is science. Haarp is on, okay? And Haarp just ran an experiment in November creating artificial auroras. Artificial auroras, okay? So let's read into why Haarp in the first place created artificial auroras. Now, you might say, how could they use Haarp all the way in Alaska and create that all around the earth? Well, let's keep in mind, those towers around you can give off magnetic pulses. Those radiation towers around you have the ability to do this as well, to create things in the sky, to send out frequencies in the air. They're not there to make your phone run faster. Nobody's noticed the difference between 4G and 5G. That's a fact. Even the biggest sheeple out there will tell you that they haven't noticed. Just they don't want to believe that those towers are there for a sadistic purpose that has to do with their own health and things that the government can do using those silent weapons is pretty much what they are, right? So here's the article from November of 2023. If you live in or around Alaska and recently saw some eerie lights in the sky, don't worry. They were all part of a science experiment. Earlier this week, researchers from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which of course, I love how they just They tell you that Haarp is a part of University of Alaska Fairbanks. It is a part of the government. It's a part of DARPA. It's a part of the CIA. I mean, it is you think that just some kids from a university built Haarp? Would they go to, their local hardware shop and got some antennas and they built this thing and they're allowed to shoot this thing into the ionosphere to do all these experiments? Give me a break. It's laughable. Yeah, the University of Alaska Fairbanks and several other U.S. institutions created artificial auroras by sending radio pulses into the Earth's ionosphere using Haarp transmitters on the ground. The frequencies of these transmissions were between 2.8 and 10 megahertz. These transmitters act as heaters that excite the gases in the upper atmosphere. When the gases de-excite, they produce an air glow between 120 and 150 miles above ground, according to a notice about the project issued by the Haarp team. This is similar to how charged particles from the sun interact with gases in the upper atmosphere to create natural auroras. The charged particles are steered by the Earth's magnetic field to the north and south poles to form aurora borealis and aurora australis. Compared to those light displays, the artificial auroras are much weaker. So why do the researchers do all this? Studying this artificial air glow may provide insights on what happens when real aurora lights appear. If you notice a faint red or green splotch in the sky above Alaska between the 4th and 8th of November, chances are good that you saw an experiment in progress. Haarp also notes in its FAQ that these ionosphere heating experiments have no detectable effects on the environment after 10 minutes or so. Okay, so what you learn right there is that the government, not the University of Alaska, you like how after they say the University of Alaska, they go, and U.S. institutions, okay, this is U.S. government, has the ability to create an aurora. So then you say to yourself, well, why would the government create an aurora? Are they creating auroras because they're just up there with our tax money and they're going, it'd be really pretty if we could make northern lights all around the world so everybody could be thrilled and happy and smile, right? No, of course that's not what they're doing. They're transmitting frequencies in the ionosphere, right? So we know they have the ability to create artificial auroras. So then the question becomes, why and how? Another thing that you need to factor in addition to the why and how, is all these reports that came out that many people were unable with the visible eye. Did anybody out there read that? That people were unable to see this with their own eye. In fact, they were encouraged by the mainstream media to do what? Well, they were encouraged to get out their phone and record it. Why? Well, they tell you that the phone is sharper than the human eye, which is, of course the sheeple will believe, right? So the phone is sharper than the human eye. So get your phone out, look through this device, and stare in to the atmosphere so that you could see this for yourself. What you're seeing are frequencies being let out into the open. Now, you don't know what these frequencies are. You don't know what the long-term effects are. Obviously, none of these people understand Haarp. And all of a sudden, if we think about Haarp and what Haarp's known for, okay, we see what? Rapid tornadoes all around the United States of America. In fact, just forming in the same exact spots over and over and over again. Places that normally don't get tornadoes are getting wiped out. It's not just Oklahoma anymore. It's not just Texas anymore. And soon, I'm sure you'll be seeing the tornadoes forming in cities, and the dumbed-down sheeple out there won't even blink and say, hey, I thought tornadoes only formed over open fields and stuff. Wasn't that science? Oh, well, guess what? Now a tornado could form right in the middle of Manhattan. And these people will be like, oh, okay, I guess there's a tornado in Manhattan today. They wouldn't think twice because they refuse to believe that the government has the ability to manipulate the weather. It is beyond their comprehension, okay? Just like Haarp, in general, being able to manipulate and create an aurora is beyond their comprehension because they don't understand why they would do these things. There's a lot of reasons why they would do these types of things, okay? There's a lot that could come of this. People don't seem to understand. If an EMP is done, everything gets fried, including the power grid, okay? Which clearly we know that they could shoot EMPs from 5G towers. They could do this by turning on and cranking up Haarp. They could do this from fighter jets way up in the sky, like I showed you in a previous video, that you would never even be able to see, that could literally just send an invisible beam and wipe out an entire city's electricity and electrical grid and short circuit every single device that you have. So do you think it's a coincidence that we have the aurora lights illuminating across North America while Haarp is transmitting a test into the ionosphere, while Haarp just ran a test in November, creating artificial auroras over Alaska, not over North America, over Alaska. But think about what we've heard and what we know now about 5G towers. For people out there that aren't aware, 5G towers can do more than just radiate emissions, okay? 5G towers can be used as like miniature Haarp weapons, okay? The types of frequencies they can get out of that can generate and create tornadoes, etc. And they're everywhere now, right? We're not just talking about, well, they got Haarp up there and they've got the St. Louis Arch. There's a 5G tower within a mile of every other 5G tower. You can't go down a highway anymore without seeing these things popping up all over the place. So while we connect the dots and we see, okay, now we have the aurora lights all across North America. Don't be suspicious. It's just some freak thing of nature that we're supposed to believe. We also have Haarp, who we've all called out for years and years and years, who is running a test experiment at the same time, even though people out there don't know about it. Now they know, right? And they'll go, whatever. They're running a test run. Who cares if Haarp's turned on? Haarp just did a simulation of aurora lights. They just simulated this in November, which means what? That they have the ability to do it. So then you go, okay, so what would the purpose of this be? Well, this purpose would be tenfold. If they could create this in the sky and then shut the grid down, they could do a test run like this, right? Test it out. The whole country saw it all of a sudden. Okay. Oh, now it's around the entire Earth, right? Which tells us that they're going to need more than just Haarp to get this around the entire Earth at the same time. Which means what? Well, a lot of these towers can emulate this from the towers directly, right? So now you look at it and you say, okay, well, if they shut the grid off, they could just say that it's solar flare. They were testing it out. They could see that it runs across the Earth. You can see with your own eyes. Boom, there's your boogeyman to tell you why the grid is shut off. Because everybody clearly is now aware of what the aurora lights are. Are they aware of the fact that they could simulate it? No. And then what other propaganda do we get at the same time? Right? We get articles like this. Of course, deflecting within 24 hours, not even, of this happening. We have Haarp solar storms. Conspiracy theorists say auroras were man-made. Several conspiracy theorists on social media are now claiming that the auroras seen across Europe, North America, Australia, New Zealand on Friday were man-made, a product of a high-frequency active auroral research program testing. However, these claims were made without any evidence. Well, here's the evidence. I'll give you the evidence, okay? The evidence is this. They have the ability to do this. They've told us they have the ability to do this. Nobody should trust anything that they're being told on the television set. And if you say why don't you just use your common sense and stare at the TV, pay attention to what they're saying, and tell me how in the world we could trust a word coming out of their mouths. They gaslight us 24/7 against one another. They lie to us about everything. They just lied to the entire world in 2020 about something that occurred, and now it's out in the open that it was a lie, and nobody even seems to care or hold them accountable. So who's ever going to hold these people accountable? They just come out with stories like this, and they go, according to conspiracy theorists, without any actual evidence. Well, where's the evidence that it's not man-made? Where's the evidence of that? Bill Nye? Is that the evidence? You roll out Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson, whatever the guy's name is. You roll them out every time there's a scientific event and we have to believe it's science because these two a-holes get rolled out on television and we're supposed to trust and believe these actors who couldn't be more flaming, by the way. Yeah, no thank you. Goes on to say several conspiracy theorists on social media are now claiming that the auroras seen across Europe, North America, Australia, and New Zealand Friday were man-made, a product of Haarp. However, the claims are without evidence. The users on X platform, formerly known as Twitter, cited a press release of the University of Alaska Fairbanks Space Program to say that it was conducting tests from the 8th to the 10th. However, the website isn't working for us. That's what the article says. Yeah, I just found it on the website, so there you go. As a G4 solar storm hit the Earth's atmosphere on Friday, millions across the world witnessed auroras. Several images were shared on social media showing green and pink lit skies. Such a spectacular display of the aurora is expected to continue to occur throughout the weekend. However, conspiracy theorists say the lights are artificial. Haarp is doing something on the 8th to the 10th in Alaska that would create this. It was on a ham radio webpage, said one user on X. And again, they just go through this article trying to say, well, let's take a deep dive of these claims. Can auroras be man-made? The article says, yes, they can be. Yes, auroras can be artificial. Okay, so there's an answer for anyone out there that continually tries to think that people like us are just saying that they're fake and the government makes them up, right? Has the ability to manipulate the weather. Check. Have the ability to make a man-made eclipse. Check. Have the ability to make an artificial sun. Check. Have the ability to make auroras in the sky. Check, right? have the ability to create Project Bluebeam and make, visuals in the sky to deceive you. Check, right? So it says last year, researchers at the University of Alaska Fairbanks and several other institutions created artificial auroras by sending radio pulses into the Earth's ionosphere. The air glow can be visible up to 300 miles from the Haarp facility. And again, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter that, you could look at Alaska and say, well, they can't reach Alaska all the way down to Florida if it's longer than 300 miles, even though most people out there don't even know what 3 miles is these days. They don't have a clue about anything. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They have these other towers now all around the Earth. They might not look like the same antenna towers at Haarp, but they can be used for the same exact thing. Okay, these things are going to be used for a lot more than just microwaving us. So they say it's very unlikely that tests cover parts of Europe, North America, and Australia on the same night as Haarp, since Haarp could only reach 300 miles away. That's how they debunk it. That's the end of the article. That's the end of the story. So anybody out there that's questioning this is just going to automatically probably see an article like that and dismiss it because we know stories and videos like this will be buried, right? But what are we learning? We're learning that a lot of these freak things are happening in the sky, right? A lot of events in the sky. I'll cover Bluebeam in a separate video because this also is setting the stage for Bluebeam. Okay, if they were able to project something in the sky across the entire country, almost the entire Earth, if you think about the other places that saw this, but specifically in North America, if they were able to do it across the entire country where it was visible from, Washington State all the way to Florida and across, then we know, okay, what else do people think that they were going to do, experiments for Bluebeam? They were going to just do it in a little field somewhere where only about, 5 miles out could actually see it. They're doing these experiments in front of us for the big event. That's what they're doing. There's a lot going on in the sky all of a sudden. Have you noticed? Have you noticed a lot going on in the sky? You notice they're telling you to look up, except during the day when you're getting chemtrailed on. They never tell you to look up then unless it's the eclipse. But have you noticed? There's a major deception coming here, folks. The fact that Haarp is running at the same time just confirms, that's all it should do is confirm to people that this is not real. This is not natural. The fact that they have the ability to do this should tell people, okay, we can't believe any of the stuff that's going on in the air because they're manipulating and messing around with stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff. And now that these towers are up, they're ready to go. Okay, they're ready to go. There was no pushback in America on these towers. There still isn't any pushback. And everybody out there protects these 5G towers because they protect their technology as if it was their own mother or father or wife or daughter or whoever else they care about. They care more about their tech than they do fellow human beings. So Haarp is on. They've already run simulations at Haarp to create artificial auroras. They just want you to know that this one's not artificial. This one just happened to go farther than we've ever seen one go ever. And we're supposed to believe it's just a weather phenomenon. It's just a phenomenon of Earth. It's a sun phenomenon, right? And what's the negative that could come out of this, right? Well, in the future, if we see another one, or maybe even during this one, because it's still going on, well, the entire grid could go down. Oh, right. Well, they want to make sure everybody could see it so they could say, look, we saw it all in the sky, right? Oh, you might have seen it on your phone so you can get a better look at it, but clearly it happened in the sky. Now there's an excuse for the grid to go off and people to die off as well. Unbelievable that they even have the balls to put articles out there trying to spin this when Haarp themselves, nobody even knows. That's what I always say, like, what are these people out there who think we're all nuts? What do they think Haarp is for? Right? They talk about ionosphere. What do they think that they're like, oh, they're trying to watch out for space debris. That's one of the excuses that they use. And these people actually believe it. I mean, you could tell them that they were trying to, you could tell them that they were trying to communicate with aliens. You could tell them that they're trying to communicate with the tooth fairy. These people will believe whatever they're told. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But if you actually look at the fruits of the government, if you actually look at their behavior, everybody out there should be like, we can't trust a word that comes out of their mouths, right? But like I said, Democrats will only question the government if it's a conservative, conservatives are in charge, if it's Trump per se. But when it comes to science, guess what? The left and the right both fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. And they're falling for this. And they'll continue to fall for it. We'll see what comes out of it. We'll see what's next. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.